Hi, everyone. It's Candace Crowell Goldman, and we have another episode of Quantum Realms 2022. And today I'm talking with another BQH, Beyond Quantum Healing Practitioner, Brittany Aurelie. Hi, Brittany.
Hi, Candace. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited about talking with you today because we are having our entire show focus on you and BQH. And you have some really great stories and how you came to BQH and how you've had a healing with it and how you subsequently did even more work with it and then how you became a practitioner. So I'm just going to turn it over to you right now and have you give us a little bit of a backstory about how you found this work and what happened in that first session, because it's a really super great story. And I know our listeners are going to be happy to hear it. So welcome.
Thank you so much. Yes. So I actually came to this work when I discovered Dolores Cannon and all of her work, and that's kind of what drew me in. But I actually experienced in one of my very first BQH sessions, which was done remotely, it wasn't in person. And in that the first BQH session I ever had, that was with Allison Coe. And in that session, I received an instantaneous healing of my lifelong mitral valve heart murmur. And I love to share this story with everyone because I have so many people and clients that come to me and ask me, well, how effective are these sessions online versus in person? Because they really feel, honestly, like if they have a session in person, it's going to be more powerful in some way. And so I love to tell them this story because I even had, before I had become a hypnotherapist, before I had become a practitioner, I had those same questions as well. How is this going to go online, and will the energy show up for me in the same way? And oh my God, did the energy show up for me? I met with Allison, and the funny thing is, with my mitral valve heart murmur, I had symptoms that accompanied my mitral valve heart murmur since childhood. So my mitral valve heart murmur was not diagnosed until my early 20s. The first time I went to see a cardiologist, I believe I was around the age of 21. And that was because I had heart palpitations all the time. I would have issues with racing heartbeat. Like when I would be laying down or sitting, that's when my heart would race. It just wouldn't match what I was doing. And I would have shortness of breath and dizziness. And I had these symptoms more mildly throughout my childhood. And then the symptoms increased in my teenage years. And about the age 21, I ended up in the ER because my heart just kept having palpitations, ended up going to the ER. They sent me to the cardiologist, and that cardiologist diagnosed me with a mitral valve heart murmur. So I assumed that had to have been there my entire life since I had the symptoms my entire life. And as I got a little bit older, I actually was having this heart murmur monitored by the cardiologist for about 10, 11 years before I actually went in to see Allison and my BQH session. So I have a good 10, 11 years of medical records showing that I have a heart murmur and that it was being monitored. And they offered to put me on beta blockers to help with the symptoms, but I refused because I didn't want to experience the side effects. I figured I'd rather experience the symptoms than the side effects. But what happened is that my symptoms got worse and worse. And it actually got to the point where I would have trouble sleeping at night because when I laid completely flat, I couldn't breathe. And I would have to prop myself all the way up, almost like a full sitting position, just to be able to get a few hours of sleep because I could continue to breathe fine in that full sitting position. So it was getting really scary for me. And when I went in to see Allison, I had written down 2 questions on my list of 15, 20 questions that you ask your higher self. I wrote down 2 questions in regards to my heart murmur. I did not ask for my heart murmur to be healed. I just wrote down, will my heart be okay? ? And then my next question was, will I ever need surgery, to correct the issues going on with my heart, ? And that was all I asked.
Can I stop you and ask you why? I find this interesting for a lot of reasons, but why? I mean, obviously you knew that it was a possibility, or you've read or seen or whatever, but why? Why just those?
I only asked those two questions because honestly, I was a registered nurse, and I had been fully indoctrinated into, medical science. And it didn't occur to me on a conscious level that my heart murmur could be healed. It was something that I didn't give a second thought to it being healed because I never thought it could be healed. I figured this was a lifelong thing. And some people who have heart murmurs are actually completely asymptomatic.
Yeah.
And they never have issues with it. So I think part of me was like, oh, I'll always have the heart murmur, but maybe I can at least have help with my symptoms.
I have more questions, but you found BQH, you found Allison Coe, you found quantum healing. And even though you had that in your sights and a session with a BQH practitioner, it still didn't connect that you could.
No, it still did not. And I believed 100% in these sessions. I thought they were amazing. And I had heard of all of these beautiful healings that people had received, but it didn't connect for me to ask for healing on my heart murmur, because I just thought I'll have it forever and maybe I can get some relief, right? That's kind of, let me get some answers. Let me get some relief. Let me know if I need surgery. That's where my head was. Let me ask my higher self if I need surgery to correct this. And little did I know, my higher self was about to fix it. And the funny thing is, I've had probably 5 BQH sessions over the past 5 years on myself. And that was the only session where I had such a physical reaction during the session and such a physical reaction after the session. So I find that really funny. When Allison started to guide me down into that super deep hypnotic trance, I didn't go to a past life. I actually went to just memories from my current incarnation. I saw myself as a 5-year-old little girl, and this scene started to unfold for me, but I couldn't really focus on the scene that was unfolding because my attention was being taken away, because my heart started to race and just like beat and pound so wildly within my chest. And the room started to spin, as I'm trying to be in this hypnotic trance and be present for what's happening. I can't really pay attention to it because my body's going completely berserk. And I told Allison, I was like, whoa, oh my gosh, my heart's racing, the room's spinning. I'm so uncomfortable. I don't know what's happening. And I literally contemplated getting up and leaving and stopping the session. I was this close to stopping that session and getting up and getting out of the trance because I was absolutely terrified. And Allison, gave me the suggestions to be the observer, but that didn't really take it away because this was something I was meant to feel. And she offered to move me forward in time and skip that scene to see if that would alleviate the intense symptoms that I was having. And I was sitting there thinking about, what am I going to do? Am I going to go forward in time? Am I going to look at this scene? Am I going to run out the room and stop doing this? What am I going to do? And in that moment, Spirit just came in so strongly for me, and Spirit was nudging me and saying, no, we're giving you these symptoms for a reason. We gave you this scene as a 5-year-old girl for a reason. You need to look at this, because Spirit came in and was like, no, look at this. And I told her, okay.
You know what you're doing there? I'm sorry, but you know what this is, right?
Yeah.
This is a Qigong energy thing.
Is it really?
For the heart.
Oh my gosh. That's what I felt. Was Spirit was like,
that
no.
Gives me goosebumps. That gives me goosebumps. Oh, such a great story.
So funny.
Please continue. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, I love that. I didn't realize that. I don't know why I was doing that, but that's what it felt like. Spirit was like, no, like pushing me. No, you need to see this. You need to feel this. So I told her, and in that moment, I had the decision, run away or stay there and face it. So I decided, okay, I'm going to completely surrender to this. Spirit, you're in charge. I'm not going to be in charge of this anymore. You're in charge, spirit. And I just, in that moment, I surrendered. I was like, whatever's going on with my body, I give it to spirit. And so I went into this scene, and it was just this beautiful landscape of trees and grass and flowers and fairies. And it was like this magical landscape. And it seemed like a place that I would go to as a 5-year-old girl, like within the dream state. And I ended up talking to fairies. And as my 5-year-old self, the fairies came to me and they started to teach me about my heart. And they started to show me how to remove energetic blockages from within my heart chakra. And then they taught me how to take care of my heart energetically going forward. So that was a wonderful lesson from the fairies. And then Allison moved me forward in time to another important day. And it was still within the same life, but it was me as a 14-year-old girl. And I was in my high school. And I was having a panic attack. And this actually did happen to me where when I was in, I went to a high school with thousands of people. It was so many people. And I would have, every once in a while, I would have these panic attacks and I would just feel very uncomfortable being there. So I saw myself as this 14-year-old version of myself in the middle of a panic attack. And my guardian angel, Archangel Metatron, pops up to the right of me. And me and Archangel Metatron are looking at this version of myself. And he starts to explain to me, look, this is happening to you because you are so highly sensitive, because you are so empathic. You're soaking up other people's energy like a sponge. And because at that time in my life, I did not understand energy at all, I thought that the influx of energy that I would feel was actually coming from my own body. And I would drop into fear because I was fearful of what I was feeling and what I was experiencing. And I just thought there was something wrong with me and something wrong with my body. And when I would drop into fear, I would contract. My energy would contract, my body would contract. And in this contraction, I was not able to release other people's energies. So I would walk around absorbing more until the point where I would either get sick or have a panic attack because it was just too much energy for my body to continue to take on. And Archangel Metatron told me, be a window. You came into this life to do that, to bring in other people's energies, to read it. But he's like, you need to immediately let it go. Bring it in and acknowledge it and read it and let it go. Let it go. You need to be a window and continuously let it go. So I always remember that to this day, even though it was years ago. I always remember, be a window, be a window. And after I received those teachings from the fairies and from Archangel Metatron.
Can you tell us, because I wrote it down, I'm going to interrupt you again, because you said the fairies told you two things. They showed you how to remove blockages and to maintain your heart health. Can you give us just a little clue? So maybe
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
What that means, and maybe some other people can benefit.
Definitely. I've actually never heard anybody teach what they taught me. So I guess it could be interesting to share. What they showed me was that I could release blocked energy and release stagnant energy from my entire system through my heart chakra. So I know a lot of people release energy in different ways, maybe through the feet or, however they do it. But I had never heard of utilizing your heart chakra as a way of clearing out your entire body. So it was like clearing out blockages from all my other chakras with my heart chakra as the main focus, and everything that I wanted to release would be released out through my heart chakra. So it was like just teaching me how important this center of my body is. It's like the top 3 chakras, the lower 3 chakras, and it connects them all. So it's almost like the importance of staying in your center and constantly caring for it on a daily basis.
Okay.
And basically what they taught me was to clear all of my chakras through this one chakra, which I've still to this day never heard anybody teach that or say anything about that, but that's what my fairies taught me. And so that's what I do.
Do you do that just like with intention and meditation, or what does that look like for you?
It's more like just, it's absolutely intention. Because wherever your intention goes, the energy flows. So it's basically like feeling in, it's almost like doing a body scan and seeing where you have this blockage of energy, and then bringing it up and having it all almost magnetized to the heart. And we're going to collect all of that blockage, all that blocked energy is going to magnetize and collect right here in the heart. And then you're going to expand out and release it. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to bring in, you know, all that good golden white light, right? And fill your body with whatever you need in the moment. And also they taught me to not just bringing in the golden white light, but bring in that pink light, bring in the green light, bring in whatever energy you're needing in that moment, bring in the blue light, you know, peace, you know, health, love, whatever you're needing in that moment, bring it in and fill your entire, it's almost like just using this as the gateway. And whatever I want to fill my body with, I naturally fill it through my heart. Whereas a lot of people teach to bring it in through the head or bring it up through the feet, you know, but my fairies were very much like, this is your center, release and bring in through your center. So.
Okay, so back to the story. So Metatron was there and he was showing you that as well, how sensitive your body was. And then what happened?
Well, what happened was after I received the teachings from the fairies, from Archangel Metatron, all of those physical symptoms, the heart racing and the dizziness and just the uncomfortableness that I was in, it just completely stopped. And I was just calm and centered. And I was able to do the rest of the session without any further issues from my body. So we went on, we did all the questions, and I came up and out of the hypnotic trance. And when I came up and out of the hypnotic trance, I was head to toe covered in sweat. And I've never had this happen in any other session.
Can I ask you another question? I'm sorry, this is such a great story, but I'm visualizing it all. You know, before you had talked about that you slept mostly sitting up so you could breathe. When you were having that session, were you sitting up or were you laying flat?
I was slightly reclined. Okay. So I had pillows that were propping me up, but not as high. So I was kind of midway. And when I had to do that, where I wouldn't be able to breathe at night, it would be like random nights. So it wasn't every night that I was like that, but it was a lot of nights where it just was hit or miss, you know, and it would be caused, the more stressed out I was, the more I would have those symptoms of not being able to sleep when I was reclined. So when I came out of that hypnosis session, I had to change my clothes because my clothes were sopping wet because that's how much I sweat. Yeah. So I just took that as a sign of the powerful energy that actually showed up for me in that session. And, right away, I didn't know right away what happened. I just knew that was a great session. I got a lot from that. And I felt like there was a lot done energetically. But it was like, as the days went by, as the weeks went by, as the months went by, I started realizing, holy crap, I'm not having any of my heart murmur symptoms. I no longer had the heart racing. When I was sitting or laying down, I didn't have the heart racing. I didn't have the difficulty breathing while I lied flat. I did not have the heart palpitations, the excessive heart palpitations, and I did not have that dizziness and that shortness of breath. Like I wasn't experiencing any of that. And I looked back and I was like, oh my gosh, that day, I haven't experienced any of those symptoms since that day. But it wasn't until 2 years after that session that I really fully understood what had taken place that day. So because I wasn't having those symptoms anymore, I didn't go back for my yearly checkup on my heart.
Why not?
Because why would I need to, right? So 2 years after that session, I finally go back into the cardiologist to get my usual echocardiogram, which is an ultrasound of the heart. And they always do it when they're checking on heart murmurs, and my EKG, but I had different insurance. So I had to find a different cardiologist. So I had to leave the cardiologist that I had seen for like 10, 11 years. And I went to go see this new cardiologist. And I did the ultrasound and the EKG and everything. Then I showed up for the session and he was going to read my results and check me out. And, I came in, I met with him, we chatted a little bit. He read my results just to himself, and then he listened to my heart. And then he said, okay, well, everything looks normal. And I'm sitting there on the table and I was like, okay, well, what about my mitral valve heart murmur?
Yeah.
And he looked at me like I had lost my mind. He looked at me like I had two heads. And I could tell that me asking him that question got him nervous and a little frazzled, because he was like, whoa, did I miss something? I could tell his brain was thinking something along those lines of, oh crap, let me go through this again. So he got my echocardiogram results and he read through them, got my EKG results, read through them. And then he took his stethoscope out again, listened to my heart, and he listened to my heart for a long time. He listened to all the chambers. He was really listening for something. And after a while of him listening to my heart, he finally looks up at me and he says, you don't have any heart murmurs. And I about fell off the table. That's how shocked I was. I looked at him, my jaw dropped, and I was just like, what? And I was just in utter shock and disbelief. And the funny thing was, I knew I was feeling better. I knew I hadn't been having those symptoms. But again, I just did not, it never occurred to me that my heart murmur would actually be healed and actually be gone.
I'm taking notes as you're telling your most amazing story. And there, you said a couple of things that I think is really interesting. So, because, I've had my own clients who've had healings like this. There's been other BQH practitioners that have had healings like this. And there's a couple of things you said that's just fascinating. So number one, you had to go to a new cardiologist. Now, this is fascinating, because had you gone back to the old cardiologist, just think about that for a second. He knew you as the person with a heart murmur, meaning that's his reality, that's his consciousness state, that's everything about him. And you going to him, I wonder, well, I don't even want to think about what might have happened there, right? You, spirit, reality, the universe brought you a brand new cardiologist so that you could have a brand new experience with your brand new heart with a brand new cardiologist. And it's just easier that way, because he could think, well, something weird happened there. Whereas the other cardiologist in that reality, in that mindset, might have really pushed against it. And we're going to redo your tests. We're going to, you know what I mean? All that kind of thing, which can sow doubt and all of that. So here you are with the new cardiologist and the new things. And then I just loved, I know this is just an offhanded comment, Brittany, but you said that he looked at you as if you had two heads.
He sure did.
Right? Well, think about the symbology of that, right? The person you used to be,
Yes,
and the person that you are now who doesn't have the heart murmur.
so true. Oh my gosh, I love that.
So please continue.
No, I 100% agree with what you're saying, because I did think about, wow, like after all these years, I had to find a new cardiologist. And I'm like, that must have been divinely orchestrated in that way. And that was because I was stepping into a new reality. So I needed a new cardiologist as part of my new reality. Because I think what happens when we have these sessions is that we do shift timelines and we do quantum leap. So things like that are going to occur, right?
Yeah. And I do want to mention this. Allison Coe's energy is so centered on the heart.
Yes.
So beloved by the world. And one of the reasons she's so beloved is because she has such huge heart energy. He is 100% genuinely wonderful like that.
Yes.
She just exudes love. And what a brilliant and beautiful person to have bring you through that first BQH session. I do want to mention that. At the same time that I mention that, and want to, of course, give kudos to Allison and all the wonderful work done with
100%,
and the world and a bunch of other people. I do want to say that there's other practitioners who are much less known who can bring similar heart energies to sessions and help facilitate these kinds of healings as well. I think still practitioners, or excuse me, the public sometimes still thinks and may still think, listening to your story, I really need to get to Allison so that I can have my own healing. And of course, her appointment book's quite filled, and a lot of people would like to see her. And she conducts beautiful sessions. But I just want to say this so that it's very clear. It's about the client first and foremost. Number one, where they are, everything brought up. Of course, the practitioner means something. Of course, Dolores used to say 10% practitioner, 90% client. That was the way Dolores taught this. She was like, it's up to you, she would say. But, and in the way I try to say it is, this is an experiment, a chemistry experiment. You're bringing your energies as a client, you're bringing your energies as a practitioner, and those two energies come together to have a consciousness exploration and, event and healing, hopefully, and possibly, and spectacularly sometimes, as in your case. But I just wanted to make sure that people out there realize that, it's not just about the practitioner at all, but it is about the heart field and the energies brought to the session.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I still to this day hold such deep gratitude for Allison. And I do, as a practitioner, understand that all healing is self-healing. I understand as a practitioner that I'm facilitating this session for you, but that you're the one doing the magic. You're the one doing the work. And what I'm doing is holding space. But I understand how powerful it is for someone to hold space for you. Yeah. Because healing happens.
To truly care. Truly care. Yeah.
And I think, and that's what Allison brings to the table, is that genuineness and that true care and compassion, and that a lot of that big expanded heart chakra energy. And I think it was just the perfect practitioner for me to experience healing my heart chakra with somebody who is, like you said, so tapped into their heart. And she was the perfect match for me in that particular session, because that's what I needed to go in to receive. And she just has a lot of that energy. And like I said, she's wonderful at holding space and believing in you and believing in whatever healing is going to happen. So I do believe in that we're co-creating this experience. So it's very important to find a practitioner who aligns with you, so that you can co-create whatever experience is like in your highest good at that time. So it's not about, just necessarily finding Allison, which, you should, she's amazing, but finding a practitioner that you just have that resonance with. And you'll know when you see their picture, when you read their biography, or when you talk to them on the phone, that you'll know, you'll pick up whether or not you want to work with them. And sometimes, a practitioner may be the best fit for you for that session. And then for the next session you receive, you may be guided to another one because you're going to work on something different this time around. And this practitioner would be great for that,
Perfect. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. So you leave the doctor's office, and then what does life become like at that point?
Yeah, so I left the doctor's office and I let him, he didn't ask me anything about why I thought I had a heart murmur. He didn't ask for my records. He got me out of that office so quickly, because if I had had a heart murmur my entire life and it had now been healed, he didn't want to know anything about it. Like 100%, he just wanted me out of the office.
Yeah.
So I left, I got in my car and I'm driving home. And that's when I thought back to my session with Allison, and it hit me. I was like, whoa, I bet you my heart murmur was healed in that session 2 years ago. That's what happened. So it's funny how we don't realize, it takes us years sometimes to realize what really took place in our session, and these sessions can continue to give us more and more, as the years go by. There's more that you learn and more that you receive. So I just love these sessions because it's like the gift that keeps on giving in a way.
Oh, absolutely. Even my own, and it was a very brief session with Dolores, but that was 2008. And I still think about it. I still think about so many aspects of it. And it really meant something at the time. It meant something more a few years later. It meant something more a few years later. It means even more now. Since the last 2 years of the world getting turned on its head, it means even more now. It just keeps expanding. Like, see what that meant? See what, what the meanings were here? Oh, and now see what the meanings are here, as the energy expands. And actually that's just so interesting, because you were completely brought up in the medical system, which is, I really, I don't mean to completely hijack your story, but I'll interject a thought that I continue to have as the West really has found itself in this very typically secular mindset, where religion and spirituality, although there is an uptick, of course, we see it, the uptick in interest in spirituality, but those who are still so focused on politics and pop culture and some of that stuff, and those of us in the spiritual metaphysical community are sort of looking sideways at all those worlds, shall we say. I think it's a real human desire to have a connection to spirit. And if you don't automatically do that, and if you don't automatically cultivate that, or have even people around you kind of giving you some indication about how that can come about, whether that's organized religion or a nature focus or more Eastern philosophy, whatever that is, if you don't have that, you know what I think happens? I think humans find themselves filling that purpose with some other systems. And I think some of those other systems are politics. I think some of those other systems are conventional, pharma driven, the medical reality systems. And I think that's kind of explains some of the fervor out there about people who seem to be so focused on things in such a strong way.
Yeah, because it's almost like if you question their medicine or whatever, their politics or whatever they believe in, it's like you're questioning them.
Exactly.
Right? So it's like religion or spirituality. It's like if that's wrong, then they're wrong, because they don't see themselves as, thinking for themselves or questioning anything. Right. So I always like to say that, I don't have beliefs. I just have ideas, and I can change my ideas whenever I learn more,
I love that. And isn't that the way it's supposed to be? We can actually say, gosh, I've expanded, I've evolved since then. And people, because that weird thing that's going on in culture right now, well, you said this 2 decades ago, so now I'm going to cancel you on that,
right? And you're like, I was a completely different person 2 decades ago. I was a completely different person 2 months ago. I'm evolving and changing so quickly. I think so many people are right now that, you can't even recognize who you were 15 years ago.
So how long after you're, moving into your new physical reality and all of that, how long after that cardiologist appointment did you start thinking maybe you wanted to look into actually practicing this work?
Well, I always had the desire to do so. So it was really when I experienced that healing that was like the big catalyst for me. That's when, because I had actually started going through a spiritual awakening prior to that. And I had gone through a Kundalini activation as well. So I was in a space of being very fragile and very sick. When I had my Kundalini awaken, man, I became so ill, so fragile. I gained 60 pounds. I really couldn't work or do anything for about 3 years after my Kundalini spontaneously awakened. And that was an amazing experience, but I was still in that fragile state. So I really I didn't know what I wanted to do because I didn't know what my body could handle. But I knew that I wanted to do this. And when I experienced that instantaneous healing of my mitral valve heart murmur, it was like this huge lesson in yeah, you've been feeling crappy, and yeah, you've been feeling weak, and you've been going through, you've had all this energy running through you, and you've had a tough few years, trying to catch your body up with all the energy that it's carrying now, and feeling sick because of it, and having your hormones all out of whack. It was like this big catalyzing moment of, I can heal, I can get better, right? My body is miraculous, and my body can hold crazy amounts of energy and balance it out eventually. I mean, for me, it took me a good like 3.5 years to balance it out, but I got there. But it was just this huge lesson of having this reverence for the physical body and for the innate intelligence that resides within each and every one of us. Because I think a lot of people kind of focus more on the top 3 chakras, right? And focus more on connecting spiritually, and not necessarily connecting to their physical bodies in the lower 3 chakras. But man, our physical bodies are way more intelligent than our mind could ever be. And our physical bodies are our ancestors. Our physical bodies are our, it is a divine connection, and there's so much intelligence in there. And there's just this level of trust that I learned to have for my physical body, because my physical body knows what it's doing way more than I do. Like, it's way more intelligent than my mind. So I need to trust it, and I need to trust other people too. For when I have clients, I need to see them and their bodies in that way as well.
Just so spectacular. Okay, so then you learn quantum healing, and you start doing more sessions, and you start taking clients and all of that. So what did the sessions look like after that spectacular event with Allison?
Well, like the sessions that I would give, I
Both.
don't know what it was. I think because I've had so many amazing sessions, and I've had spiritual awakening, Kundalini awakening, and I've had just the craziest things happen in my life, and the craziest stories that just kind of broke me out of that mold of that 3D reality, and expanded me to to really see, wow, this stuff is real. It's almost like if you saw an alien, or you saw a ghost, or it kind of like disrupts your reality. It makes you question everything. So I've been through so much of that I think when I have my sessions, they're so magical, and the most amazing things come through. And I think it's just because I believe in everything, and I believe in my clients so deeply, and I just love being able to hold that space and be that person that helps them, helps guide them to discovering their own power, and helps them in expanding their consciousness, and just holding that space for them. So I've had extremely amazing sessions, and I've had sessions where it was very metaphysical and esoteric, and I've had sessions that were very much based on the body and physical healing. And I think because I'm a nurse, I probably will, and because of my history of healing my physical body in so many ways, I think I may attract clients who are trying to heal their physical body. And I think that's okay. I think that's part of who I'm meant to attract, because I have had so many issues besides the heart murmur. I've had, I got extremely, extremely sick for years, and I had to like lose the 60 pounds and figure out how to heal myself on so many levels, that I think that's just naturally who I attract, is people who want to heal physically. And I'm happy to hold space for people like that, because I've experienced firsthand the healing that happens energetically when you experience a BQH session. And then I've experienced firsthand how that healing needs to anchor down and integrate into the physical body in order to manifest into your reality. Because, your outer reality is just a reflection of your inner reality. So the healing is not complete until you integrate it and anchor it into your physical body. And I think that a lot of people don't necessarily understand why that is. And I think sometimes people come in to have sessions, and they leave, and they want to experience that instantaneous healing. Right. And they don't want to put in the work, right, to receive that healing themselves. And what I always say is that if you receive an instantaneous healing, that's amazing. And that was meant for you. And that was in the perfect time because you understood the message and the lesson and you've made the changes to your life. So you were able to have that healing instantaneously. But BQH is not a modality that allows you to spiritually bypass anything. So if you're asking spirit, hey, I want to heal something, you might end up feeling worse after this session because spirit's going to say, all right, you want to heal this? Well, here, all the blockages that are standing in your way to receiving that healing, we're going to push it to the surface and you're going to feel it now. And you're going to be forced to face it and face yourself and heal it because this is what you asked for. So sometimes I say, if you come in asking for healing, you better buckle up because you're not going to be able to hide from it anymore. And you're not going to be able to spiritually bypass. You're going to have to go dig deep and do that shadow work and understand why it's there. And but spirit's going to be there for you every step of the way. Spirit's going to send teachers and healings and all the things that you need to heal. Spirit's going to send it to you. You just have to be able to see it and recognize it when it's in front of you and take that action, that guided action to learn, what you need to learn, to receive the message, to receive the lesson and make those changes in your life to anchor down whatever was healed energetically, to anchor that healing down into your physical body and have that healing be complete. And then you can actually manifest it and move past it. And now we're going to work on something else, right? Because healing's never done.
You make me think about this concept that society has made us, and I watched this, of course, in my own life, the 6 decades I've been on the planet. I've watched it. And my mother, bless her heart, she was an absolute heroine when she was younger. When she was older, though, she was quite dependent upon the medical system. And she was quite captured by the concept of, as most people are, certainly in the West, which is, I've got some sort of issue, give me a pill or a shot or a thing to make that issue go away. It is so deeply, deeply ingrained in us. And quantum healers such as us, when we talk to people about the energetic reason for the body having some imbalances or pains or challenges or diseases, we have this thing that we have to at least contemplate and talk with our clients about, which is, how much are you invested in that system where this is part of your belief, which is, I have a headache, here's a pill. I've got this, go to the doctor so they can fix it. And because they have this, and I wrote an article long ago and I reference it a lot, fix me, I'm broken, fix me, I'm broken. It's a mindset that very often people take to a doctor because we've been trained that way. And even when people start thinking conventional medical, isn't working for me, I'm going to go to an alternative practitioner or a natural healer or a quantum healer, sometimes they still bring the fix me, I'm broken belief system to that healer. And that, we got to overcome that to see improvements in our lives, don't we?
Absolutely. That's why, for every client that comes to see me there, you have what you teach your clients, you teach them a little bit about hypnosis, about how the session's going to go. But I always make sure to include, I am not your healer. Only you can heal you. And I always say, I don't put you under hypnosis, you put you under hypnosis. I guide you. I don't heal you, you heal you, and I facilitate the session. So I really make sure that my clients understand that the power is within them and the change is within them. And what I really want to do next, I want to create a video that talks about more in detail how to integrate these sessions, because I think some of it is because we have been trained by society to think that we can't heal ourselves and that we need to seek out doctors. And I'm not knocking doctors because I think they're amazing. And I have a naturopath physician that I regularly see who has helped me, help guide me, but that's an opinion. My naturopath has an opinion, and I go to her for her opinion, and I don't take it as the end all be all. I see if it resonates with me, and I see if it works for my life. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, I move on to trying something else. I think, especially when it comes to our bodies giving us signs, we don't need to just suppress it, right? We don't need a pill to keep suppressing it. We need to figure out why it's there in the first place. You know, I'm not saying, like, if you have diabetes and you need insulin, like, by all means you need to take your insulin. You know, if you get in a car accident and you lose your arm, you need to go see a doctor and get surgery and make sure everything's okay. But if you have a headache, why do you need to immediately reach for an ibuprofen or a Tylenol? Why can't we stop and think, all right, what have I eaten today? Why do I have this headache? Have I looked at my computer too much? Have I not had enough water? Have I been eating too much sugar? Like, we need to start thinking about those things.
And sometimes it's other people's stuff, like you were saying earlier. Sometimes our body, you know, one of the things that you said was how highly sensitive your body is. Yeah. And I got one of those. I have one of those bodies. I still, you know, even though I've had incredible healings and incredible challenges, I have this weird physical form that's like a barometer of a lot of things, my own stuff, but other people's stuff too. And we kind of have to pay attention to that.
There's so many people who identify as being empaths, who identify as being highly sensitive people, myself included. And I just recently started getting into the human design. I don't know if you know anything about that, but they have the 5. In
the time we have left, I want to know about that and your somatic breathwork
stuff.
Oh man, 10 minutes left to talk. So tell us what else you're working on, and you bring some of this to your BQH sessions, right?
Yeah. So with the human design, they have these 5 energy types, right? And there's projector, manifestor, manifesting generator. There's reflector, and there's something else. Oh, and generator. I don't know. I'm new to human design, and I only studied my own. But anyways, I found out that I'm a projector in human design, which means that I guess people who are projectors don't have a defined sacral center, which means that they don't really cultivate a lot of their own energy. So people who are projectors actually need way more rest than people who aren't, and they need way more breaks, and they need time every day to be away from other people, because projectors actually take on other people's energies and they amplify it and project it back out. So if you're anywhere near other people and they're those energy types of generators, manifesting generators, manifestors, those type of people who have a lot of natural energy, you're going to be constantly running their energy, and you need to have time every day away from people so that your energy can rest. And if you sleep with somebody who is one of those energy types and you're a projector, they recommend that you sleep 2 nights a week in your own bed, away from whoever you sleep with who is an energy type. And I'm very new to this, but man, I just really found it so incredibly helpful, because there's nobody in my life who's a projector. And I think that's why I have a tendency I still struggle with adrenal burnout and adrenal fatigue to this day. And I think it's because I am surrounded by people who are not projectors and people who are highly energetic. And I think I need to keep up with them. And when I try to keep up with that lifestyle, I just constantly burn out. And even when I don't burn out and I just want to rest, I am constantly feeling guilt and shame for wanting to rest. And reading about projector energy types and reading about highly sensitive people and empaths, it really gave me that permission slip of, this is who I am and this is what I need. And it's absolutely normal and it's okay. And it's necessary for my health and well-being. So I've actually been able to share this with the people that I live with and have them understand me on a deeper level. And once I did that, I was able to start resting and setting up my boundaries for my own lifestyle, and not feeling guilty about it in any way, not feeling shamed about it in any way, and feeling like my family who lives with me understands it now and understands that my energy isn't like theirs and I need to work differently. And they also said when I was reading about it, people who are projectors really need to have a flexible work schedule because they need to be able to schedule their breaks when they need it and schedule their vacations when they need it. And I just identify with that so closely. But our society has trained people to go hustle lifestyle, right? And projectors, highly sensitive people, they can't do that hustle lifestyle because they fall ill and they burn out. So I think it's a wonderful thing for highly sensitive people to understand their human design and to understand read books. There's books out there about highly sensitive people and how to take care of who you are, and empaths and how to take care of who you are. But go one step further and find your human design. I highly recommend it because it really gave me that extra permission slip of, this is who I am. I'm going to own it, and I'm going to set my boundaries accordingly and inform those I love why I'm different than they are and why I need different things than they do.
Yeah. And once you discover that truth about yourself, then you can step into your own kind of, self-empowerment, and you can live, our theme is integrity, power, and truth. And then you can live an integrous sort of lifestyle, both in your personal and your professional life. And that's just really important, rather than, so many of us really are people pleasers, and we have to remember, remember to step back from that a little bit. Tell us a little bit about the breath work and how that's coming in and how that works with trauma. And all that.
Well, I mean, it all kind of goes together, especially with people who are highly sensitive. And the guy, Stephen Jaggers, he's the one who teaches somatic release breathwork. But I love when he says this all the time, and I absolutely love it. He says, being extremely sensitive is a superpower if you have boundaries. It is a curse. Being super sensitive is a curse if you don't have boundaries. So it's all up to you. If you're going to establish those healthy boundaries and be very fierce in owning your boundaries and not letting anyone cross your boundaries, then your sensitivities can thrive. But when you don't have those boundaries and you don't understand, if you don't even understand your needs in the first place, how can you set up your boundaries if you don't know what your needs are? So you need to understand yourself to be able to set up those boundaries and set up a lifestyle that empowers you because when you're living the truth of who you are and the truth of what your body truly needs and what works for you, that's when you can step into your power fully. And that's when you can have more energy than you ever have before. But the thing about the somatic release breath work that I've been taking, I actually started taking it because I'm a very sensitive person, and I have experienced adrenal burnout, bouts of adrenal burnout, and I have experienced adrenal fatigue for many, many years. And I have actually brought it up in like 5 Bqh sessions, can you help me heal my adrenals? Can you help me heal this? Can you help me heal that? And it's been 5 years and it hasn't, I've definitely been able to manage it a lot better, but I haven't been able to fully heal from it. And I think that's because my body's like, you're still not doing the right things. You're still not protecting your energy. You're still not resting when you need to rest. So my body's like, no, we're not going to get rid of the adrenal fatigue symptoms because you're still not listening. So, a big component to getting rid of the adrenal fatigue and the issues that I have stemming from being so sensitive is getting rid of the trauma that is held within my body. So people who are extremely highly sensitive are more prone to trauma. So I don't know if I didn't know that, and I didn't really understand trauma to the full extent, because I think people have a misconception of trauma, right? People think that trauma is just if you go through something extremely horrible, some life-altering event like war or abuse, that those are the people who have trauma. And yes, that's traumatic, and those people do carry trauma from that. But trauma it's a distressing event that causes you to create a trauma response and react on an internal level. So trauma is completely subjective. What is traumatic to me is not what's traumatic to you, and vice versa. And being a highly sensitive person, we can be traumatized by things that would just roll off other people's shoulders. So, I could be traumatized by maybe just being a small child and being in a classroom and having the teacher maybe pick on me a little bit or yell at me a little bit or, make me feel embarrassed. My body can create a trauma response just from that little event that any other kid would just let roll off their shoulder, right? So and the thing is, in our society, we're not taught to fully process our trauma. So we walk around with all of this trauma in our bodies they're not processed all the way through. So our bodies think that the threat is still there. And the other thing I have to say about trauma is that every single time you experience a traumatic event, a piece of your energy leaves. And a piece of your energy leaves during the traumatic event in order to numb you to it. So that you don't have to experience the full intensity of what is happening to you. And this is a highly intelligent defense mechanism of your physical body and of your energetic system to save you and protect you in that moment. Having the energy step out and having you be more numb in that moment can actually save your life. But what happens is, further down the line, months, years later, you don't end up processing this trauma. So you're still carrying around that numbness and you're still carrying around the trauma response, which oftentimes gets triggered over and over again. And believe it or not, numbness is an active process. It takes a lot of energy to keep you numb. And it takes a lot of energy to constantly be triggered and constantly have this fight or flight reaction to all these triggers, or to constantly be walking on eggshells, or constantly be thinking, oh, is there danger over there? Is there danger over there? And just kind of like white knuckling it through life. It takes an incredible amount of energy to live in that way. So what I love about somatic release breathwork is that it is a modality that allows you to finish processing your trauma. And the thing is, I didn't understand. Now I understand because I've done a lot of breathwork sessions, but before I didn't understand what breathwork was. I thought it was just people go and they just breathe funny and they just like have a meditative experience, la, la, la. That is not what breathwork is. In the somatic release breathwork, you go in and when you have a somatic release breathwork session, you will experience two things. The first half of this session, you will experience activating your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight nervous system through the use of breathwork. So through the use of breath work, you are purposefully put in a dysregulated state and purposefully put in that same state in which the trauma occurred. And when you do this, what you're doing is you're allowing the unprocessed trauma to really come to the surface and be processed and be released. And a lot of times that looks like shaking, that looks like moving your body, that looks like screaming, crying, laughing. I mean, I can't tell you how many emotions and expressions I've seen people emit during these sessions. And even myself, I've just cried and wailed and screamed and held myself and shook. And every time you have those expressions, it's the body processing and discharging that trauma. And so what I love about this session
is storing it. And the storing of it is what brings the challenges, the issues, the disease, the imbalances.
Yes. Keeping that trauma within you it's so draining on your energy. And, as a sensitive person, we have way more trauma probably, racked up in our bodies than other people, because just little things can traumatize us. We could be a little kid and get our lollipop taken, and we could create a trauma response to that.
You know what I've noticed, and I've really kind of focused on this a little bit because to people around, as a curiosity, I've never really understood what might be called physical humor, or even what people right now will, they'll show somebody, or somebody will show a little clip of somebody doing something really dumb or getting in a weird situation and falling and hitting their head, or really getting, injured in some way. And there's a great deal of humanity that really laughs at that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never laughed at it. I've always thought it was weird. And here's the thing, and maybe, those of you who are listening out there can see whether or not it's the same for you. When I see some of that, like if they show someone who falls down, and I just saw accidentally, but I saw something this morning where some teenager was running across the street and trips over his feet and his face literally hits the concrete. I felt that on my face, right?
Yes.
I mean, first of all, it's not funny, and I don't know why anyone thinks it's funny. And the second of all, the pain of that other human face planting came into my own body, right? And so, take your point well about traumas coming from all different places. And sometimes, seemingly innocuous things like that. For some people, it's funny. For some people, they think it's funny, but they still absorb the trauma of it all. And there's a lot of trauma, and there's a lot of trauma in the news, and a lot of trauma in world events. Even if we're not right in the middle of it, we really have to safeguard our energetic hygiene.
Oh my gosh, yes. And because you can get that secondary trauma, right? Where you're listening to somebody talk about their trauma and now you're traumatized from their trauma. I mean, for sensitive people, that's how it works, right? You just pick it up. Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's just, you can be traumatized from the news, from a movie, where people go watch these horror movies and they're just the slasher movies, and they just have a great time. Whereas I'm fully traumatized. If I go see that, I can't watch it. I can't do it, because I'm like, why would I purposely make myself feel that way? Because when you're so sensitive, you just take everything on and you feel everything to its full extent.
I've been able to do that in a really long time. Well, it sounds like you've got all these different skills and you're really coming into your own as a healer. It's been so wonderful to talk with you today about your own healing sessions, about how you're helping others heal with BQH, and some of this other breath work and other skills that you're bringing to your clients. Brittany, I know you're doing some videos. How can people find you?
Well, people can find me on YouTube at Brittany Aurelie, and that's Brittany, last name Aurelie. And I'm also on Instagram at the same name. And I have my own website on the same name. It's just BrittanyAurelie.com. So you can find me in either one of those ways. But yeah, so just, really quickly, I just wanted to mention that when it comes to the somatic release breath work, that the second half of this session is the part where you stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's the part of the session where you get to regulate the system, and where you get to invite your soul energy to come back and to integrate that. So that's why I really love these sessions, because it finishes processing the energy, and then it allows you to integrate that piece of yourself back, right? And I also wanted to mention that I highly recommend these sessions for after BQH sessions. If you have a BQH session and you have the means to have a somatic release breath work, maybe 2 weeks or a month or 2 months later, this breath work, because it released blockages, will help you integrate your BQH session, and kind of what was healed energetically. It will help you bring that and anchor it down into your physical body, so that you can maybe heal and learn a little bit faster. You know what I mean? But I'm really interested to see, because this is what I did for myself. Like when I had a session with you, Candace, I had a somatic release breathwork session a couple weeks later. And I find it really helpful in terms of integrating everything. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I think it's going to be a great method and modality for integration as well, not just trauma release. So I'd really love to use it in that way. But again, I'm not done with the session yet. But I'll be, by the time this video comes out, I should be done with it, and I should be able to offer those somatic release breathwork sessions. So maybe if you have a session with me, you can then also book a somatic release breathwork session with me. I can do it in person or online. And we can use it as a way to release trauma, but also to integrate your session, integrate the healing, and bring everything together. So I'm excited to see what the future holds in terms of that.
Well, perfect. I'm glad you wrapped that up and completed the description of somatic breath work and bringing other skills into your life as a healer. Beautiful. Brittany can also be found, of course, at our directory at quantumhealers.com. And if you are a quantum healer or a somatic breath worker or any kind of alternative or energy healer, you are welcome to join us. We have a thriving, very wonderful, neutral, guru-free community of support at quantumhealers.com. And of course, we have the directory listings for all of our members. Thanks so much for spending time with me, Brittany. I'll see you on the forum.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.